What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Anyone that knows me knows that I love records. I find the technology to be incredibly fascinating. And what I find interesting about vinyl records is that somehow it was able to survive throughout the ages when things like MP3s exist and even CDs. And nowadays you can get high fidelity streaming on Tidal, but somehow vinyl just kept fighting its way through the ages. The reason why I love vinyl is because I like the collectability of it, I like the tangibility of it, and I just think it sounds great. Even though I stream most of my music, the main reason why I buy records is to pay tribute to some of my favorite albums. And I thought I might as well share some with you guys at home, if you guys are interested. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my top 5 favorite records, in no particular order. So let's kick this list off with a fun one. This is Urban Flora by Alina Baraz and Gallium Matus. And the reason why I picked this album is because this kind of sound is something I don't hear very often. It kind of blends EDM sounds with R&B vocals and R&B tempos and paces, making a very trippy yet smooth sound. Alina Baraz has these really sweet and silky vocals that I could honestly sleep to, in a good way of course. And the production value is very high on Gallium Matus's end. As an example, I wanted to talk about Make You Feel. And I really like the chorus on Make You Feel because it chops up Alina Baraz's vocals, pitches them down, and plays them in a completely different sequence. And that in itself is very, very creative. The production value is very high on this one, and this is probably one of the most relaxing albums that I've ever heard. So the next album on our list is Victory Lap by the late and great Nipsey Hussle. The Alina Baraz record was the most relaxing record I've ever heard, but this is probably the most motivational in contrast. Songs like Hustle and Motivate I listen to all the time when I'm on the bus to work, and it never fails to get my confidence boosted. That song and many others on this album present some very caption-worthy quotes. I think what makes Nipsey Hussle so good on this album is how self-empowered he feels, along with his street authenticity. When rappers talk about success, let's be honest, a lot of times it comes off as generic. But when Nipsey Hussle talks about those kind of topics, he has this believability that separates him from everybody else in the game. And it also has a very modern West Coast sound. It has the classic funk synths and the pianos, and it mixes those with, of course, the modern day trap hi-hats and the 808s. Overall, I think Victory Lap is an absolute classic, and rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. Number 3 on this list is What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. So What's Going On is an album you listen to when you take a look at the world and you legitimately feel upset. It's the album that you put on a rainy day. There are heavy themes of being sad and frustrated with the world, which make this project really relatable for me. A good example of this would be the song Inner City Blues, which is the last track I believe. In this song, Marvin Gaye talks about all the drawbacks and all the disadvantages of living in the city. Another song to mention is Save the Children, which is about protecting the children from a world that will cause inevitable suffering and ultimately doesn't care about them. A world that is ultimately cruel. I was very moved by these tracks when I first heard them. It's a depressing LP for your darkest days. Marvin Gaye's voice is as soulful and as iconic as it's always been. One thing I find really interesting about this album is it feels like one big song, almost as if it was meant for vinyl, because the transition from song to song is so seamless, you might not even notice it. Which I find really interesting because it gives me the impression that it's a live performance that I'm witnessing. If you're ever feeling blue, this is a great record to throw on. So number 2 is an LP that you throw on when you're feeling angry or rebellious, and that is Paranoid by Black Sabbath. Now, I'm not very much of a rock guy, honestly. I'm more of an R&B and hip-hop guy, but even I can admit that this is probably one of the best records ever made. I mean, the writing is insanely well done. There are songs like War Pigs, for example. War Pigs is about how politicians use soldiers as pawns and puppets in their own schemes in order to fulfill their political agendas. And regardless of how you feel about this message, it's powerful and it's written extremely well. The dark imagery also illustrates this very well, along with many other songs on this album, like Electric Funeral, for example. Electric Funeral being about a nuclear holocaust. I'm not gonna act like I know a lot about rock music, but even I can admit this is a great album. It's incredible from a musical standpoint, and it's also mixed and mastered extremely well. The drums are fiery, the guitar riffs are classic, and Ozzy Osbourne's voice is the icing on the cake. Now the last record on this list is from my favorite video game, Nier Automata, and this is the official soundtrack. Nier Automata is a video game about 2 android soldiers fighting a war against machines on a post-apocalyptic Earth. To keep it short without spoiling anything, these androids slowly grow an attachment to each other, which is forbidden for their kind. And the game in general is about how emotions give purpose and meaning to our lives. I could go on forever about this game, but I want to get into the music. There are these compositions that feel very big and emotional. There are songs like City Ruins where, even though they're singing in a made-up language, it still conveys a ton of emotion. And being able to convey such emotion without actually using words is pretty incredible. The vocals are absolutely gorgeous. The OST is incredibly wide and atmospheric, and every time I listen to it, I get pictures in my head from the video game. For example, there's this one piece called Amusement Park, and every time I listen to it, I can see the Ferris wheels and the roller coasters in the background. Whenever I listen to City Ruins, I kind of envision abandoned buildings and concrete structures overtaken by plant life on a post-apocalyptic Earth. And you know a soundtrack is good when it unlocks these deep memories and emotions in you from when you were playing the game. And that happens to me every time I listen to it. Alright guys, that's everything for today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little different from normal, but I hope you guys like it. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Peace.